You walk toward the campfire. The conversation stops, nobody looks at you, and nobody makes room for you to sit. For most of your life, that would feel awkward. For most of human history, it could be deadly. Your ancestors feared many things. Lions hidden in tall grass, freezing winters, starvation during a failed hunting season, and infections from wounds so small you barely noticed them. But one fear may have been stronger than all of them: being rejected by the tribe. Today, rejection usually means hurt feelings, an unanswered message, an awkward silence, or the sense that people no longer want you around. Painful, embarrassing, but survivable. For roughly 300,000 years, the calculation was very different. If the tribe rejected you, who shared food with you, protected you while you slept, helped you when you were sick, or carried you when you were injured, the answer was simple: nobody. To understand why your brain still fears rejection today, you have to forget cities, governments, supermarkets, hospitals, and every safety net modern life provides. Now imagine yourself living 50,000 years ago. Your world contains perhaps 30 people. Not 300. Not 3,000. 30. These people are your hunting partners, your babysitters, your doctors, your security system, and your entire social network. Everything depends on them. Everything. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar became famous for the social brain hypothesis, the idea that human brains became unusually large because social relationships became unusually important. Your ancestors did not dominate the world because they were stronger than other animals. They weren't. A chimpanzee is stronger. A gorilla is much stronger. Humans succeeded because they cooperated better than almost any other species on Earth. And cooperation depends on one thing: being accepted by the group. The archaeological record tells exactly the same story. One of the most famous discoveries comes from Shanidar Cave in modern-day Iraq, where researchers found the remains of a Neanderthal known as Shanidar I. His body showed severe injuries, including a damaged arm and signs of disability that should have made survival extremely difficult. Yet he lived for years. That means someone brought him food, protected him from danger, and cared for him when he could not fully care for himself. His bones reveal something remarkable. Compassion existed long before civilization. And compassion only works when you belong. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine belonging slowly disappearing. Nobody threatens you. Nobody attacks you. Nobody even argues with you. Instead, people become quieter around you, conversations end when you arrive, and invitations stop coming. At first, it seems small. Then it becomes impossible to ignore. You tell a joke. Nobody laughs. You ask a question. Nobody answers. You offer help. Nobody responds. The next morning, a hunting party leaves without you. The day after that, nobody shares information about where food was found. A few days later, people stop making eye contact altogether. The message becomes clear: you are no longer one of us. This may sound familiar, because humans still use many of the same social signals today. School bullying, workplace exclusion, social media shaming. Different environment, same brain. The technology changed. Human nature did not. But for your ancestors, exclusion carried consequences that modern people rarely experience. Food was uncertain. Protection was uncertain. Survival was uncertain. If you became sick, there was no hospital waiting for you. If you broke a leg, there was no ambulance coming. Your safety depended almost entirely on whether other people were willing to help. And people are much less likely to help someone they no longer consider part of the group. This is why social acceptance became one of the most valuable resources in human history. Let's reconstruct a day. You wake before sunrise and notice that the camp already feels different. Children are playing near the fire. Adults are preparing for the day. People are talking, laughing, planning, but not with you. You sit near the group and nobody tells you to leave, yet nobody welcomes you either. You exist in a strange space between inclusion and exclusion. The atmosphere feels wrong. You cannot explain why. You only know that something has changed. As the morning progresses, the hunters prepare to leave. Normally, you would join them. Today, nobody asks. You wait. Nobody says a word. Eventually, the group disappears into the distance while you remain behind. For the first time, confusion turns into fear. You are still strong, still healthy, still capable. But suddenly, none of that feels important. Because humans were never meant to survive alone. The rest of the day feels different. Every sound seems louder. Every shadow seems more threatening. Every problem feels larger than it did before. You search for food alone and quickly discover how difficult that can be. There is nobody helping you track animals. Nobody watching for danger. Nobody sharing knowledge about where berries or roots might be found. Tasks that once felt routine suddenly require enormous effort. By sunset, a terrible realization begins to emerge. The greatest threat was never the lion. The greatest threat was losing the people standing beside you. Anthropologist Wiessner spent decades studying hunter-gatherer societies and discovered how much time people invested in maintaining relationships. Stories, food sharing, conversations, jokes, advice. At first glance, these activities may seem unproductive. In reality, they were survival tools. Long before insurance companies existed, relationships protected people from disaster. Long before hospitals existed, communities provided care. Long before governments existed, tribes created security. Human beings survived because they belonged. This helps explain something strange about modern life. Why embarrassment feels so painful. Why public humiliation can haunt you for years. Why criticism sometimes hurts more than it should. Why loneliness can feel physically exhausting. These reactions often seem irrational, but they are not. They are ancient. In the early 2000s, neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger conducted research that shocked many people. Participants played a simple virtual ball-tossing game. At first, everyone was included. Then the other players stopped passing the ball to one participant. Nothing dramatic happened. No insults. No threats. No violence. Just exclusion. Yet brain scans showed activity in regions associated with physical pain. The brain reacted as if something harmful had happened. Because from an evolutionary perspective, something harmful had happened. For hundreds of thousands of years, exclusion often signaled danger. Your nervous system still remembers that history, even though the modern world is completely different. This creates a fascinating contradiction. You can live in a city of millions and still feel lonely. You can have food in your refrigerator and still fear rejection. You can be physically safe and still feel threatened when people exclude you. The ancient brain is running ancient software inside a modern environment. And sometimes the mismatch becomes obvious. A negative comment online can ruin an entire day. Being ignored by a group can feel devastating. Not because those events threaten survival directly, but because your brain interprets them through the lens of human history. The same history that kept your ancestors alive. There is another twist. The fear of rejection did not merely help humans survive. It helped humans build civilization. People who cared about their reputation were more likely to cooperate. People who cooperated were more likely to form larger groups. Larger groups could share knowledge, defend territory, and solve problems together. Eventually, those groups became villages. Villages became cities. Cities became civilizations. The same psychological system that makes rejection painful also helped create the modern world. Without it, humanity might never have advanced beyond small bands of hunter-gatherers. So the next time rejection feels surprisingly painful, remember where that feeling comes from. It does not come from weakness. It does not come from insecurity. It comes from a survival system that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. A system inherited from people who depended on one another for food, safety, and protection. People who gathered around campfires under dark prehistoric skies. People who understood something modern humans often forget. No one survives completely alone. You walk toward the campfire. The conversation stops. Nobody looks at you, and nobody makes room for you to sit. Today, that would hurt. For your ancestors, it could mean the difference between life and death.